Here's the salary breakdown for the Miami Heat. You can clearly see that Pat Riley had a plan beyond LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. He wanted the Miami Heat to always remain flexible. And next season, and even the season after that, they can pretty much go in a totally different direction if they want to. They can dismantle the entire team, start it all over. It was really a brilliant plan. Now, if you want to keep looking at that graphic, I got a link in the description so you can see everything. So this week, ESPN was hinting that the Miami Heat are targeting Carmelo Anthony this offseason, and everyone's going crazy. But how realistic is this? If we take a look at that salary graphic, it is possible, but a lot of money's going to have to be left on the table. Everybody. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. ESPN is saying that LeBron James would do it because he had this minority stake in Beats by Dre. So when they sold to Apple, he made a cool $30 million. So they believe if he takes a cut, it doesn't really matter to him. But what about Wade and Bosh? If all three of them decide to take a cut, then it really could be a reality. They could actually offer a good amount of money to Carmelo Anthony to bring him in. But the problem really is Carmelo Anthony. Why would Carmelo Anthony go from the New York Knicks to the Miami Heat? He's playing for the New York Knicks. He knows all about that rivalry. The Knicks and the Heat hate each other. You can't go from the Knicks to the Heat. That's like if Kobe went to the Celtics. If Carmelo never played for the Knicks, then it wouldn't matter. Let's say he stayed on the Denver Nuggets and then he was a free agent. Then I could see this really happening. But because he played for the New York Knicks, I just don't see him switching teams like that. That's bad, man. He's going to get backlash. I don't know if Carmelo Anthony wants that kind of backlash. That's some cheese. But really, the reason why I think he's not going to do it is because I believe that Carmelo Anthony is more about the money than he is about winning. I'm not saying Carmelo wants to lose, but he wants to make money while winning. And going to the Heat is not going to accomplish that because there's no possibility for a sign and trade. The Heat don't have any players that you could sign and trade and get back. There's not much value there. So he's just going to have to go on his own and sign in the offseason. But with other teams, maybe he could get that sign and trade going on. So where he gets the max money, the max amount of years. Missing out on an additional year to go to the Heat means that he leaves at least 20-something million on the table. And I don't think he's the kind of guy to do that because remember, the way that he got to the Knicks, it was obvious he wanted to play for the Knicks, but he didn't want to do it in free agency. He wanted to get signed and traded so that he gets that extra year and that max money. Because if he just goes in free agency, he's going to miss out on a year. He's going to miss out on that max because the team you're with can always offer you more than the team that you just signed with in the offseason. So because he was being selfish, which isn't a bad thing at all in the NBA because that's what all the players do. In the offseason, they pick the team that's going to pay them the most. That's what everybody does. That's why it's so weird that LeBron, Wade, and Bosh were able to team up and take less money because you got guys like Joe Johnson making more money than LeBron, making more money than Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh per year. So because of the sign and trade, the Knicks had to get rid of a lot of their good players, draft picks. They really had to change their team to get Carmelo when he could have just came in the offseason and they would have been able to keep all those players. So if Carmelo really wanted to win, that's what he would have done, but he didn't. He wanted that sign and trade because he wanted that money. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think this destination of Miami is going to happen, because I believe he really wants the money over winning. Now, what makes this interesting, though, is that Carmelo is hinting that he wants to opt out of his current contract with the Knicks, which from a money standpoint doesn't make sense. Because if he stays through this year, he's going to make that extra 20 whatever million. And then if he's a free agent the following season, then he can sign another 5 years max deal where all the other teams can only offer 4 years. And remember, Carmelo Anthony is 30 years old. So this is his last chance to get a max contract. He's probably not going to get another max contract in his career. He's going to be 35 years old. The only reason why it would make sense for Carmelo Anthony to opt out of his contract right now, if he was going to stay with the Knicks, is because he doesn't want to risk injury. Because let's say if he plays this year, he's still got his max deal, but he gets injured. Then when he becomes a free agent, it changes the dynamic of his negotiating, because maybe he's injured, maybe it's a bad injury, you don't know. So then maybe he can't demand that max contract, or maybe he can't get a contract where the money is guaranteed. So in my opinion, if Carmelo Anthony opts out June 23rd, that means he's leaving the Knicks, because it doesn't make sense for him to do that if he's going to stay. I don't think he's that worried about getting injured. And if he's going to leave that extra year on the table, that max money, then that means he's leaving New York. If for some reason Carmelo did end up on the Heat, then the NBA would be screwed, because they changed the rules, they changed the salary cap, they did all that to prevent players from doing this, from teaming up like this. They don't want that. They want these players to be spread out amongst so many other different teams so that they're more competitive. They don't want to see all these stars joining together. And normally the money will prevent that from happening, because NBA players, you rarely see NBA players take less money to go and play somewhere else. They always lie. They always say, I want to go to a contender, but then they end up going somewhere where they get paid the most. Remember Smoove? He said he wanted to play for a contender, and then he signs with the Pistons, who were still in rebuilding mode. When players become free agents, all the teams that have been losing for the past so many years, they're all bidding to get these guys to come to their team, and that's how you have all these overpaid players like Joe Johnson. That's how it happens. Because of this, because of the money. So if Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh take less money to play together, then that means the NBA failed miserably with the salary caps. Because now when teams get that one-star player, it's not going to be enough. Because you have one-star player and you can't get anybody else because you don't have the money to do that. A good example is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They developed their draft picks, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, but now they're some of the best players in the league. They're in the top 10, top 15 of the league, top whatever. So now they demand max contracts, and that's why they had to let go of somebody like James Harden. They couldn't afford to keep James Harden. The players that really want to win are going to take less money to play together. That's why the San Antonio Spurs, they've been doing that for years. Tim Duncan, he's been taking less money for years so that San Antonio was flexible so they could bring in some other good role players. They could pay them. Tony Parker and Ginobili did the same thing. They're all about winning. So they're going to take less money. And if the Miami Heat, if all those players are really willing to do that, that is amazing, because you just don't really see that happening. It doesn't happen in the NBA. Most players would never leave that kind of money behind. They would never leave 20 million, 30 million, 40 million over the course of so many years to create that space for other players. They would never do it. And you can't blame them, because the NBA is a business. And they're only going to be in the league for so many years, so they want to make as much money as possible so that when they retire, they have as much money as possible. They can use that money in their retirement after their years of being in the NBA, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's why I think that the way everybody responds to other players taking less money to play together, it's like they're sacrificing like no other players are willing to do. That's why there's so many chemistry issues in the league, because a lot of players that are on the bench, they feel like they should be starting even if their team has a guy that is a starter. But the reason they want to start is because they want to show how good they are, so that when they go into free agency, they can demand more money. But they can't do that if they're coming off the bench. They can't develop and really grow their game. And so that's why you have a lot of players, they don't work out on teams. They have to go and leave and get traded because they want bigger roles so they can make bigger money. And that's why a lot of legends, they say that when you get to the end of your career, it's okay to team up then to try to win a championship. And that really doesn't make sense. Like, why is that? The reason they're saying that is because they're no longer making that max money. So now they might as well team up and try to win, because there's no money that's going to prevent them from joining. They're not losing any money because they can't demand that money anymore. So why not team up and try to win a championship? That's why Karl Malone went to the Lakers at the end of his career. Barkley and Pippen, even though Barkley, he's always talking about the big three, how they joined up together, yet he tried to do it at the end of his career. And it's all because the money wasn't there anymore. So why not? Why not try to win? So they're mad that these guys are willing to do it in the prime of their career, taking less money. It's interesting, isn't it?